Good morning and happy Friday. I know I'm usually not on till 3 o'clock with Pat, but Pat is taking some much deserved time off, and he's up in the upper parts of Lake Superior in Wisconsin with some buddies, and he barely has any cell phone coverage. I think he did that on purpose so I wouldn't bother him. So he's not going to be around this afternoon, so we can't go over any lending, but I do have a story I want to tell you about quick decisions made by buyers, and I know that my seller won't mind me sharing this story with you on what we encountered yesterday. But first and foremost, welcome. Esther and Jimmy currently smashing the like button. How cool. And Terry, I surprised you. Yes, I probably surprised a lot of people. So, hey, here's some interesting stuff. Today, 6,840 homes on the market. We're going to hit over 7,000 tomorrow for the first time since November of last year. So we had 4,887 go on the market, 3,780 go under contract. That's a difference of 1,633. Looks like this. No, a difference of 307. 1,633 is the number of price changes, and that has gone up. That's going up at a pretty good clip. You start getting into detail, you can see some homes that have been on the market a few days, and people are going, this isn't working like I thought it would, and they're starting to pull the price back. So more and more we're seeing that. It's still brisk. Prices are still high. I know I repeat myself, but you're seeing people pull back because they thought, well, if the price have already hit here, I'm going to go ahead and price it there. And that's just a tragic mistake. So what are we going to talk about today? And I think this is very important for buyers because in a frenzied market, you get rushed and you make decisions. And you go in and you look at the home and you write a contract and you agree to the terms. And then all of a sudden at the last minute on closing day, you kind of try to sneak some things in there that you forgot. You can't do that. So in this example, we had two offers to consider for the home. And this one came in with all the terms that we liked, including the option to lease back for at least 90 days. So we wrote it up as 90 days or sooner because they're still looking for a home in another state. Now, the buyer agreed to those terms. 90 days sounds terrific. And really no other terms in that. It was a pretty clean offer. So as you get close to the closing day, usually 3 days before, you do what's called a final walkthrough with your agent as a buyer. And the final walkthrough simply consists of making sure the home is in relatively the same condition as it was when you wrote the offer. Now, there's been some examples I had where we go through on the final walkthrough and there was a teenage son that was really upset that his parents were moving him. So he punched a big hole in the sheetrock and we had to have that repaired. But sometimes there's storm damage that's gone to a house, especially in this weather. And hey, did you wake up at 5 o'clock this morning like I did? I'm drifting off here, but that lightning was intense. I thought my place lifted off the ground a couple times. And when you get a huge lightning strike that's that close and that loud that wakes you up, you don't immediately think it's lightning. I thought a truck hit my place. Man, it's unbelievable. And it's still popping around out there. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. There can be some weather damage to your house. So you put an offer on it on the 1st of July. You're going to close at the end of July and you get in there and you find out a tree fell in the garage. So that's what final inspections are all about. Sometimes windows break. So you really want to do your due diligence on the final walkthrough because once you sign off on that form, you have accepted the house. You've accepted the house in the current condition. So if you sign off on that form and then you want to kind of try and ask and change some things, not going to happen. Just simply not going to happen. So the first thing that happened to us was they came down for the final walkthrough on the day of closing, which I found kind of odd. Like I say, you usually do it 2 or 3 days ahead of time, but again, it depends on everybody's schedule. And they hand my sellers the lease agreement. And the lease agreement had a leaseback option for 60 days, not 90 days. And I said, don't sign it. It's in the contract and says 90 days. You can't just decide you're going to change it on the last day, the day of closing. They had already dispersed the funds, so the money was already flowing through the system. The agent was terrific. I mean, there was nothing wrong with this agent, but somehow I think they thought they could sneak that in, and we caught it. So not only that, but they have a custom-made dog run at the side of the house, and it's a big one. It's about the size of a small train, but it was custom made, and it was put between the house and the fence. It was wedged in there pretty tight. It's not something you could just slide out. Now, the person that came out and looked at the house prior to making an offer didn't spend a lot of time, I guess, going around and really looking at that dog run. And we had brought up the subject, and the seller said, if they want that thing taken out, we're going to have to talk about that, because it'll do damage to the house if we remove it, and it's going to have to cut it. You can't just slide it out. We're going to have to cut it into pieces. I'll need some notice. And I neglected to ask the agent about that. They came and wrote the offer, and they liked everything. Then all of a sudden yesterday, the buyer would like the dog run removed before he moves in. Nope. They had already signed off on the pre-closing walkthrough. So you can't sign off on stuff and then go, oh, hey, that playground equipment in the back that's attached, we'd like you to get rid of that. Now, if you do have playground equipment and you're selling your home, that's not considered an attached fixture. You have to take that unless you've negotiated ahead of time. Even brackets that hold flat screen TVs are now considered attached equipment, and those are required to stay unless noted otherwise in the contract. But when you go out and you purchase a home and you're in a hurry and you make a fast decision, get back in there and read that contract during that 10-day inspection period, because you don't want to overlook anything that comes up on the very last day of closing and then decide you want to change your mind. What's in the contract is binding. So the contract said 90 days. There's no wiggle room from that unless we wanted to write an addendum later. An addendum always trumps what's in the original contract. If you see things you want included or excluded in the house, that also has to be done with an addendum. You can't just say, well, we'll just ask them. Now, all of this was resolved at the last minute, as if selling a house wasn't stressful enough. This kind of stuff, drive you to drink, and you shake your head sometimes. You just never know what people are going to come at you with. When you're listing your house, make sure that you're very clear on what stays and what goes. And this client was very clear, and it was very communicated well. Where it fell short was I failed to bring it up as a what if with the agent. Oh, hey, not sure if you noticed, but that dog run's pretty big. Ask your client if he wants it removed or not. But we kind of assumed that since you spent an hour walking around the house and looking at everything, that you saw everything that was there. And you saw the dog run, you saw this great big dog door, and so as a seller, you're assuming, well, he didn't say anything about it. I guess he must have a dog. Well, they don't have a dog, and so that was a bummer. So when you write that offer for the house, spend some time looking at things. I want to keep this. I want that to go, and don't think you can change things at the last minute. And do your pre-closing walkthrough a few days before the actual day of closing, because it's stressful enough just trying to hit the closing date, especially in our case where we were waiting for the appraisal to come in and we had to extend the closing by 3 days. It just got uglier and uglier. So have a terrific Friday and a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday morning.